All right, so if you saw part one of this video, then you saw how powerful the door speakers are. I just put on a bass track. Let's go check out the subwoofer.
Awesome.
Welcome back to the channel, guys. This is going to be part two of the Light Harmonics speaker upgrade. And if you saw part one, that is going to be the review of the product itself, how it sounds, what my thoughts are about it. This one is going to be a longer video, so I went ahead and put links in the description to jump ahead to whatever section you need to look at. But it is long, but it is fully detailed on everything you need to know on how to remove the panels and everything to get to the speakers to swap them out. I also wanted to make a comment about the package deals that Light Harmonic sells on their website and also on the Amazon store. They have one package that sells all the speakers that they make, which are the 3 mid-woofers up front, the 2 in the rear shelf, the 2 front door, and the subwoofer. That is only going to apply to those that have the premium audio system in your Tesla Model 3 already. If you have a standard range plus and you don't have a subwoofer and you don't have the rear shelf speakers, do not order that one because it won't work. You need the factory sub box. Unless you find a used one on eBay or someplace online, it requires that factory sub box to put the subwoofer in. They also have 2 other packages, one that includes just the front doors and the mid-range speakers. That would be one that I would recommend for someone with a standard range without the premium audio, because it is an upgrade to what you've currently got there. Now, if you have a long range Tesla with premium audio, but you don't want to spring for the full package, they also have a package put together for the doors and the subwoofer. I would recommend that one as well. Without further ado, let's get cracking. And this is the kit. You see these are the mid-range and the 2 door and the replacement subwoofer. As you can see, these are made out of carbon fiber, so they are going to be extra rigid, which is a good thing for speakers, and also lightweight. And these are just some of the tools that make the job a bit easier. I'll show you what you definitely need and then others that'll just be kind of helpful to have. So most of the job I will be using a pry tool. I like to have one that's, you know, flat on one end and has these prongs on the other end. That way I can pop out some of the clips that may hold down the fabric or carpeting. But you don't have to have, you know, as long as you have some sort of pry tool, that'll work. You could also use one of these to get those little push-pull pins to pop out of the car that holds some of the stuff down, but not needed. It's cool to have, but it's not a necessity. I would at least have one of these though. They're cheaper and they're just more useful. I would also recommend a small little flathead screwdriver. This just helps release some of the clips that hold the wiring together, some of the wiring harnesses. You have to push a little section down on the clip for it to come loose. That makes it easier. For Torx bits, you will definitely need a T30 to get the front door panels off. You will need a T25 to remove the subwoofer from its cabinet. And you will need a T20 to get the front speakers out, but I would not recommend these for the T20. I would recommend a small ratchet for the T20. And that's this guy right here, the little T20 here. It's a low profile, so it doesn't stick up very far, because working on that front windshield is going to be a little bit of a challenge. It's just not a lot of room to work with up there, but it is definitely doable. The one screw in the middle speaker is the hardest to get to. You've probably seen other YouTubers complain about it. This will reach it, not a problem, but if you're having some problems getting your hands up there to use that one, this is my secret weapon. This is a ultra low profile T20, and yeah, super thin, gives you a lot of room to work with. I'll put links to all these if you're interested. You will need an 8mm to remove the door speakers, and you will need a 10mm to remove the subwoofer box from the chassis of the car. For either one of these, I recommend an extender on these. It just makes it a little easier to get to some of those spots. But for these drivers here, I like to use this straight, just screwdriver type of driver for those, like especially to get the door off. You could use a ratchet, not a problem. I just found it easier. Just for me, it was easier to use the screwdriver style of driver. If I come across anything else that I need, I'll put it in the video, but I think this is all we need for today's job. All right, we're gonna start on the passenger side front door. To remove the door panel, there are 3 bolts holding it down. You've got one hiding behind this reflector right here. So you're gonna take a pry tool and just pop that off. Then you've got another one exposed right here, yeah, right there, that you're gonna have to kind of reach underneath with your Torx bit and undo that one. And then there's another one right here, and there's a little plastic cover that you could use a pry tool, but it's got an actual lip on the bottom so you can pop it off with your fingers, just like that. So this is your first Torx 30 that you're gonna need. Move over here underneath. You'll see there's a second one right there. There's no cover for that, it's exposed. You just don't see it from above. And then over on this side, there's another one down in there. And like I said, I just removed this little cover from that. It just pops up with your fingers. So yeah, it's actually at an angle. It's like right that way. So for this particular application, it's actually easier to use this screwdriver type of driver to unscrew this. The ratchet just wasn't really reaching it that well and doing a great job. Okay, so there's the first bolt. Okay, there's your second one. And there's the last one right there. So for the rest of this, there are some plastic clips holding it together. There's a couple up here, a couple down here, here as well. So you basically just want to get a pry tool and start prying things back so you can pull this off. You'll hear some loud pops from the clips coming undone, and that's normal. You don't have to worry about that. All right. Okay, so here is your exposed speaker here. So let me go ahead and see what size this is here, because this is not a Torx bit, it's going to be a bolt. So let me go check that out. All right, and here's a closer look of the factory Tesla speaker. And you see it does have a paper cone on that. And I just verified that these bolts here, you can either use an 8mm, either an 8mm, or if you don't have an 8mm, you can use a 5/16, and that will also fit. I'm gonna just use the same driver that I was using before that has the Torx bit and just put one of those on there to remove these. Looks like there's maybe 4 bolts holding it on. So once you basically unbolt it, you just unclip the wiring harness here by pushing that little lever right there, and that just comes right off. And yeah, super easy so far. we have a side-by-side comparison of the factory speaker from Tesla and the light harmonic woofer. This is for the front door. So back at the door, there are little lips on these little clips that go around here, and that was what was giving me a little bit of trouble popping them out. They're just there to kind of hold it in place. So you're gonna push this other one in, just let it snap in place, line up the holes, and we'll be done with this one. Just gonna make sure the speaker wire is at the top here, and these are where the holes are. So I'm gonna line this up. Yeah, just kind of push it in down until it clips in place. And now we bolt it back up. You just want to snug them down. You don't need to over tighten these. Now would be the time that if you were planning on using any type of sound deadening material like Dynamat, that would be the time to do that while this is all taken apart. You could put the Dynamat on all the metal parts here. Any part that may have rattles, anything that moves around, just kind of tape it down into place, and that should do it. You already have this sound deadening material here, but some Dynamat would help alleviate rattles and just make it sound better. Okay. Of course, if you don't have Dynamat, you can just use some electrical tape to kind of tape things down in place so they're not moving around. And that is it. All right, now that that's installed, we're just gonna rehang the door. You'll see, if you look at the top of the door card here, there is like a little clip that you hang over this edge here to hold it in place. And look to where all your little clips are and line those up. So let's go ahead and hang this on the door. Okay. Now that I've got them lined in, you just push really hard to get the clips to snap back in place. That is it. Over here, this is your tweeter. Now, Light Harmonic is in the process of making upgrades for the tweeters. They don't have them available just yet, but that is something in the works for in the future. That will be a much easier upgrade since this just pops up and off. There's a little hook here that clips onto here, so you just kind of line that up and snap it down into place. All we need to do now is just go ahead and put the bolts back in. Go ahead and put your little covers back on. Just snaps in with your fingers. Something like that. And we are done with the front door. I'm gonna go to do the driver's side now. It is actually identical, so you don't need to see all the steps, but I'll kind of show you a few little things here and there. All right, so the front door is put back together. Both front doors are completed all the way. What I will say is that just pay attention when you're lining this back up that the clips match the holes in the door. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes when you pull these off, sometimes the clips come out of the card here, the door card panel, and stay stuck in here. What you'll need to do is just grab like a little pry tool like this to get underneath that clip and just kind of pop it out of the door. And then you can take it out and then insert it into the door panel, and then you pop it back on. That's the proper way to do that. Don't try to just line up the clip that's stuck in the door with this, because you could end up breaking it. All right, the next thing we're going to do is replace the 3 mid-range speakers that are in the front of the car. There's one right here, one in the middle, and one over there. So the way you do this is you need to remove the A pillar first. You'll do that on both sides, and get to this part will just pop up after you remove the A pillar. So this all comes off as one piece, and then we'll reach over there to unbolt the factory speakers. They all should also be I believe it's a T20 Torx. So I'll verify that here in a minute. Let's go ahead and remove my heads-up display first, and let's go. All right, so first things first, we're gonna pop off this trim piece here just so we can get to this over here. And I've gotten this off before. You see I've already run wires down through here. And I've done the other side when I was doing my power trunk install. I ran power wires up through there. So let me go ahead and get this pried off and take care of this over here. So you'll see the top of this little panel here actually holds in this piece here that we need to pop off. So that's why it's important to remove this first. So now what you need to do is there's a little rubber gasket that runs along the side edge of this A pillar. I just kind of move it out of the way and untuck that. Just makes it easier to pull on this. You'll get your pry tool here, and there's going to be clips that run down the middle of this. There's, I think, 3 of them, one up here, one in the middle, and down there. So you just need to get the first one off by getting your hand in there and pulling like that. And now we can kind of work our way down. Pull it like that. Again, this little plastic thing, rubber gasket on the side here, kind of holds it down. And we're gonna start pulling it back towards us. Okay. So, like, this is your side curtain airbag over here. You don't need to worry about that. And there is a little cord right here that holds this in place, so when that curtain does deploy, this doesn't shoot out at your face and hit you. We don't need this removed. We just needed to see this little hook down here. We needed to have this part removed because it holds this grill down over there. So now we got that out of the way. We're going to go over to the passenger side, do the exact same thing as this, and that way we can access this piece right here. This just pops out like that. It's held into the clips also, but because the other side is also held in by this, we got to remove both sides. All right, so I've got the A pillars removed on both sides, and like I said, this just pries up. You can use a pry tool to get underneath here. Start at one end, just kind of work your way with your hand like that. Once all those clips are removed, you just pull this back towards you. All right, just like that. So now with the grill removed, we get a better look at the speakers there. These are the mid-range speakers, and there's 3 of them. There's one on this side. There's one in the middle. This one over here, that's a tweeter. We're not gonna mess with that one. We're only replacing the mid-range woofer. And there's another one over there. So 3 woofers. They're mid-range woofers that we are replacing in the front dash. The tool that I'm using to remove these speakers is called an ultra low profile ratchet. I bought this one on Amazon. It's got several little bits that you can remove, and they're ultra low profile, meaning they don't stick out too far. This is a T20 bit that I've got installed here, and I'll be able to use this for the majority of these. The one in the center may not, it may or may not. It's going to be a tight fit with this. If it doesn't work with this, I've got another tool that will definitely work, and I'll show you that as well. All right, so it's doing a pretty good job. This is the first screw that comes out. Once it comes out a little bit, it's actually easier to just get it off with your fingers. All right, I've got all 3 bolts that hold it down removed. So now the speaker will just lift up and out. There is going to be a little harness here, wiring harness, that you need to unclip and pull out. All right, first speaker is removed. And just like with the door speakers, this is a side-by-side comparison of the factory mid-range woofer from Tesla. And this is the light harmonic, carbon fiber. So to install this, we're gonna just grab this actually has a longer speaker wire on the speaker itself that we didn't have before. So I'm going to connect that. It just clicks in, you'll hear it click. So now we're going to have to feed some of that speaker wire down under the dash here to get out of the way of the speaker. Rotate it to line up just like that, where the, let's see. To line it up just right. There we go. I'm just going to drop these in by hand first. All right, so the first speaker is done. And I'm moving on to the passenger side speaker because it's done the exact same way. The middle speaker is a little different, so I'll get to that one last up here. So let's go ahead and start removing these and get this one swapped out. right, and we are done with the install for this one as well. Now we just need to focus on this middle mid-range speaker. All right, so the hardest part about the removal of this is this far bolt here. and it's just because there's not a lot of room between the top of the bolt and the glass. This little ratchet will fit. It is a tight fit back there, and as the bolt starts to move up, you're going to even run out of even more space. But you can use your fingers to just loosen it from there. But if you don't have this ratchet and you're still having some problems, there is another tool that's even smaller than this that you can use. And I've got a set of them here. It's not a ratchet, but it's a wrench. And this is a T20. And it just fits in down here like that. And you'll see that there's plenty of room because of just the ultra low profile of this type of wrench. It's all about the tools, guys. Like I said, once you get the bolt started to loosen up, it's actually easier to just grab it with your fingers and unscrew it with your fingers. These bolts do have like a head on them, so it makes it easy to grab with your fingers and just twist it off. Just a helpful hint. So I like using this one better. All right, so we're finished with the front dash area. It wasn't as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. If you have the right tools, it is not bad at all. I will say that there are a couple tips I could give you on this. Do the majority of the work from the passenger side because you don't have the steering wheel in front of you getting in your way. There's just a lot more room to work. So you can get that driver's side from behind the steering wheel, but all the other speakers up front, just sit in the passenger seat. It makes it a lot easier to reach some of these. The tools that I was using, the ratchet did an okay job. I really actually like this little low profile one because it just was easier for me to get it in there and just spin it around. It seemed like it just did a really good job. I'll put links to these. I bought these myself. These aren't sponsored, for the tools. I paid for these, so I'll just put a link to let you know which ones I got, and you can shop around and see if you find them cheaper or wherever, but I bought mine on Amazon. Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and put the A-pillars back on, and the front little cloth screen, they just snap right back in. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then we'll move to the back. We still have to do the rear fill speakers in the shelf and also the subwoofer. So let's start working on that. All right, moving towards the back of the car, I'm gonna go ahead and do the subwoofer next. I already know how to take this rear hatch area apart just from doing the power trunk and all that. So let's go ahead and do that. We have to pull the whole sub assembly out, which is the box and the amp itself. So let me go ahead and get that taken apart and I'll show you what you need to do for that. I'm gonna start by removing the liner. Remove this one as well. And we're going to just pop this up. This has all been removed several times before. This out, it's just held in by clips. And now we need to undo these little push pin clip things that are all over the place that hold the carpeting in. They look like that. You've seen these before in some of my other videos. So I'm gonna go ahead and just remove those so I can get this carpet pulled back and out of the way so we can access the subwoofer, which is on the passenger side of the car behind this carpet. So I removed the one that plugs into this part of the carpet here. Once you go inside the trunk, right above the light, there's another one right here. I'm gonna have to remove that. And after that, I think there's another one maybe in the corner. I don't think you have to remove that. I'm gonna see if I can just pull this back far enough to make it come out. So let's give that a try. So once I remove that, I'm also popping this off. This just is held in by clips as well. And you see some of the wiring that I've put in there for the power trunk. This is just going to give me more room to move this carpet around and out of the way. Let's see. Here we go. Yeah. So, yeah, so this is your subwoofer and the amplifier. Looks like it's held in by a couple brackets there. Let me go ahead and see if I can get these removed. There's definitely one here. There's one there. I'll look down around here, see what else I need to remove to get this out. So I was able to confirm that this is a 10mm socket that you'll need. I've got a long arm on this one. It just makes it easier, but you don't have to have that. You just need to have the 10mm socket. All right, so there's 4 bolts that you need to remove to get this out, and it's all a 10mm. There's one right here. There's one right here. There's one right here. And that is for the housing of the sub itself. But you see the amplifier is attached to the sub, so you have to remove it as well. And it is being held on right here to the chassis. So you see I've used this as a couple ground points already. So I turned off the power of the car just so there's no sparking or anything, or there shouldn't be anyways, but just to be safe. And once I remove that, this whole thing just comes out. So there were a couple wire harnesses attached to the amplifier and also the speaker that you just push the little lever and they pop right off. So there's about 3 or 4 of those that I had to do, and now it just slides out. And now that we have the box out, we can remove the amplifier, and that is going to be another T30, which is the same one we used to remove the door panels up front. So let me go ahead and remove the amp, and then we'll have free room here to get to all the bolts on the speaker. So it looks like a T25. And here's the side-by-side comparison with the factory Tesla subwoofer and the light harmonic carbon fiber subwoofer. So there is a channel here for the wiring harness to go through. So just to show you the orientation of the sub, I had to manhandle this a little bit, run the cables through the little channel here, but you'll see that there's two dots, or not dot, there's two holes on these sides here. There are no second holes on the bottom ones, and that's because there's a little pin that sticks out on each side, and I was having a pretty hard time getting all of those to line up just right. So like I said, I kind of had to just kind of force it in and manhandle it down in there. But it looks like everything is lining up now. So if you have that problem, just be persistent. I was debating on drilling out like a larger hole just to make it fit, but after I like I said, I persisted with it and it just finally fell into place and I just kind of pushed it down in there. So let me go ahead and put the bolts in and we'll be done with this part. All right, there we go. We have all the bolts in place now, and they went in really easy. Like I said, the hardest part was just getting the pins to line up with the holes that they provided there. They do line up, it's just a little difficult, that's all. Let's go ahead and bolt this back into the chassis and get everything plugged in, and we'll be done with the subwoofer. Okay, I've got everything bolted back in. Got my grounds put back in here, bolts there, down at the bottom, over there. So all I have left to do is plug in the wiring harnesses. This one down here from the speaker goes into here. They all fit in the right spot, so there's no really way to, mess it up. The fat one goes into the wide portal here. There's a small black one goes into the small black one here, and the white one goes into this smaller portal here. So that's it, and we'll be done with this. We'll just have to put the trim back on and we'll be done with the sub. All right, the sub is done, the trunk is all put back together, everything just pops back in place with the clips, and just kind of do the reverse order of how we took it apart. It's pretty simple. And now we're in the back seat to do the rear shelf speakers. For the Model 3, this is going to be, in my opinion, the most difficult one to get to. All right, I'm starting in the back to do the rear shelf speakers, and step one is to remove any, of course, child seats or anything blocking the way, so you can fold the seats down flat, because you're going to be sitting most of the time in the car on the seat back here. Just sit here. So I know at first it's going to sound like this is a lot of work, but it's not. It is a little time consuming, but if you just take your time with it, you'll be able to get it. So basically you need to remove panels on both sides of the car. You'll need this side panel to come off. Then you'll need to work on this guy here to remove this. You'll need to remove this piece. And then you'll remove these little pop pins right here. And once you do that, this whole tray area will slide out. There are a couple wiring harnesses on either side here and also on the other side that you will need to unclip. I think there's a wiring harness behind here as well. If I see these, I'll show them to you as we go, just so you'll know which ones to put your attention towards. But yeah, once we do that, this whole panel slides out, and underneath here's a metal one that's attached to the frame of the car. We're just taking this carpeted piece because the speakers are actually attached to the carpeted piece. which sounds kind of weird, but that's how they did it. So let's start taking things apart. So a lot of this job can be done with just your hands. A lot of these pieces just pull off. This is actually the seat cover protector for the underside here. But you just grab with your hands and pull back till it pops. And that comes off like that. The next piece to remove is this piece here, and there are clips holding it in, but also in addition to the clips, there are like a little rubber band that holds this to the car. And so once you pop this off, it'll just dangle from the rubber bands holding it up. And that's really just because there's a side curtain airbag here. And when it deploys, you don't want this flying across the car to the other side and possibly injuring somebody. So it just is designed to, unclip, and then the airbag deploys and this just slings up out of the way somewhere. The best thing to do is just try to get a pry tool or your fingers up under here and just start pulling away to try to get this to unclip and to pop off. Okay, now that this is unclipped, we still need to unclip it from this end here, but this will at least allow you to get to this piece right here. We're just gonna pull this, pop this one out. And then it slides down because this clip that holds this piece right here also clips into here. So that's why you have to remove this one first before you start this one. And now with that one, you can kind of start pulling up on this. If you need to get a pry tool under here, you can do that. And once you start lifting up on this, you can pull it back towards you to remove it. So this slides, you can let this dangle, but you'll want to move this piece out of the way. Notice that your seatbelt just runs through it, so you can't take this completely off. You just put it out of the way, and we'll get back to that later. And now that we have this pillar off, we get a closer look at some of the wiring harnesses here. This guy right here is your antenna for the radio, and this ribbon cable right here is very sensitive, so make sure you don't touch that. It's attached to the glass here. I've heard rumor that if you ever break this, you really have to replace the whole glass to, get it all back together again. So ignore that. What you will want to detach, however, is this cable right here. You'll want to unplug it from here, and you'll want to pry it out of this very gently. It's just one of those clips, kind of like this, that's holding it in there. So you just want to pry that to pop it out, and then this cable will be free because it's attached to this back shelf, and you want this all to come out as one piece. And these are those rubber bands I was telling you that are just holding this cover from falling off completely. If by chance they come apart right there where they attach, it's real easy just to pop it right back through the little hole there before you reinstall this panel back on the car. Just make sure you hang those first. Mine didn't come off. I was aware that they were there already, so I was trying to be careful not to, remove those when I was pulling on them. All right, we're going to do the same on this side. It's exactly the same. There are different wiring harnesses, but as far as the panels go, they all come off the exact same way as the other side. This piece here, pull it down, it goes out of the way. Now we can grab this piece, pull up and back. All right, now it's time to show you the wiring on the passenger side here. You'll see the shelf here has a wire that comes out and splits into two halves right there. One goes up and one comes down this way. The one that comes down, if you trace the wire, yeah. So I'm tracing the wire, and it's comes into this little clip here, and then it's this guy right here. So you can probably pinch that with your finger, yeah, and remove that. Now the next one is going to be more critical. You need to pay close attention. This is your Tesla radio. It's the tuner for your radio, and you need to remove this white clip right here. But as you can see, it is tucked behind that flat ribbon cable that attaches to the glass that we were talking about earlier. Do not rip this, because that will cause you to have a really bad day. So be careful removing this, and then carefully feed it. It's behind this ribbon cable, if you can see that. So carefully just put it behind here and carry it out the top, and then the wiring will be removed here. We'll need to unclip it from here, just pry it out of this little hole. That's just something that holds it into place. But after you remove that and unwire it, undo the clip right here, the panel should be almost ready to come out. Okay, it pops out like that. Now this piece right here is a little cover for it. You need to just kind of use your fingernail, and you can pull this back and off like that. See how it just kind of slides into place there. Take that off, put that someplace safe. And then from here, you want to get like a little flathead screwdriver and put it behind the white piece. Wedge it between the metal and the white piece and just kind of work it back gently. Okay, so now that that is off, like that, take your fingers, push it gently behind the ribbon cable. Make sure it doesn't get snug on that. Okay, and we are done. And the last thing you need to do before you are able to pull the whole thing out is you need to remove the little clips that are pushed in on both sides. Depending on what year car yours is, you may have like 3 or 4 of them. This is a 2019 all-wheel drive, and it only has 2. I'm going to use this little pry tool that's got the little tongs so you can get up and under behind it and just pop it out like that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and let's move on. All right, with everything unplugged and disconnected, this whole thing will slide back out towards you. You'll feel like down in here, it'll feel like you can't lift up on this, like there may be something else holding it down there. What it is there's a hook underneath this, and it hooks into place in the chassis, so you have to slide it out and then out. So that's why you feel the resistance on both sides. Over here too, like down in there. So let's start lifting away and pulling this back. All right, so I slid out the piece here, and this is what your back shelf looks like without the carpeting and the speakers, and your rear tail light is attached to it as well. So if you ever need to swap out some component of your rear tail light, you have to take this whole thing out like what we just did. But I wanted to show you, this is the cavity where your speakers go on either side. You'll see that that's why you can't reach them from underneath the trunk area. It's just one piece of metal. Also, take note that because there's a depth that you can't exceed with this, when you're looking at replacement speakers for this, the depth of the speaker has to be a certain amount. These light harmonic speakers are the same as the factory, so there's no problem there. But if you were to upgrade to something even deeper with maybe a bigger magnet, you will need some spacer rings between the speaker and the mounting point of the carpet that slides into this, just so it will be lifted up off this metal piece. So your car may not have this open piece right here. This was a 2019, and they had this open bypass area for bass sound to come through. I don't know why they did it. It didn't really make a big deal because people have covered that up and it still doesn't sound any different. Some of the newer cars, I don't even know if they have that anymore, to be honest. You'll have to look at yours, but I think they did away with that. But yeah, so that's it. Let's go ahead and move towards removing the speaker grill. Okay, on this 2019 model, the speaker grill is just one big piece. Some of the newer ones have a speaker grill here and one here. It's removed the exact same way, so you're following the same steps. It's just, instead of removing one piece, you're removing two pieces. All right, so we're flipping this guy over. And the reason for that, let's see here. Yeah, you're gonna have to remove some of this foam padding here. It's just sound deadening. And the reason for that is because the speaker grill is held on right here. You're gonna have to lift up all these tabs, and there's a bunch of them. Lift up all the tabs that run around the whole speaker area, like that, and then the speaker grill will come free off the other side. It'll just lift away. Again, you can just use your pry tool to get some of these metal tabs off. If you're going to use your fingers to do this, I'd recommend wearing some heavy gloves, because it is metal. It's, you know, thin, malleable aluminum, so you can bend it with your fingers, but I just don't want you to get cut with it. So this area between the tail light and the grill, you may need a narrower pry tool, like a small little flathead screwdriver that fits in there. And now once you have that separated, the grill just comes out, and we've got our speakers here. So I got so excited about being almost done with this job that I forgot to hit the record button, but I replaced the factory speakers. This is the factory. And if you do a side-by-side comparison with the front dash, they are the exact same model of speaker that's in the front of the car as well. So the rear and the front are the same. Wiring harness is the same, everything. It's super easy just to unclip it. But these are the light harmonic ones that's replacing them. Like I said, if you have a newer car, you may not have this whole area like this. You may just have a flat carpet around here and then a speaker grill here and a speaker grill there. They both have the same type of mechanism where you have to, you know, put these little tabs through the carpet and then flip it over and bend it down to lock it into place. The one tip I will give you on these rear speakers that's different than all the other speakers, on a 2019 model, they're held in by Phillips head screws. That hasn't been seen in any other speaker that we've touched today. And it's not a regular Phillips head, it's the cross kind, which is, I think, a Phillips 1. Usually I run across Phillips 2 heads all the time. This is a Phillips 1. And the tool I use for that, I just went back to my mini ratchet kit here. there is a Philips 1 bit right there next to the Philips 2. And it's the cross style, the one that's got the 4 corners like that. So all that's left is to reverse the order and we'll be done. You want to make sure these tabs all line up so you can put this back down and flip it over and tighten it down. So with the speakers installed, you can see the underside. There's the clips. It's just the regular type of clips, just like all the other speakers. Nothing special with that. And you'll see that there is like a little ring. That's where the screw screws into the holes in the ring that's attached to the carpet there. I wanted to show you the little hook that I was talking about. This slides into the chassis of the frame in the back of the car. So just be aware of that when you're sliding this back into place to make sure this on both sides of the car slides into the little shelf area back there. Now it's time to reverse all the steps. I'm going to go ahead and slide this into place, make sure the clips are lined up on either side, get the wiring connected, start putting the trim panel back together, and this will be a wrap. So I have this side mostly put together. Got this piece in, this pillar, and this one. Just need to put this side trim in. We'll be done with that side. Then I need to reverse the steps over here. And of course we need to put these little push pins back into place. You just push in with pressure with your finger. So I've got the passenger side all put back together. I was going to show you real quick how to put this side trim piece in right here. The main things you need to know is if you look at it, there's a little hook here with a piece here. There's another piece sticking down here. Those two need to go in this slot and also right here. So just make sure you kind of slide this into place, push it down. Let me scroll out. So push it down, and then up at the top here, this piece right here goes into there. And this big clip right there goes into here. And we are all put back together. So we're gonna go test the stereo now. All right, so that's it. That is how you install the Light Harmonic speaker upgrade kit. And it does make a big difference. The bass is really punchier. That's the main thing that you'll notice, is that it just hits, it moves air, you'll feel it, and it's just really responsive. So it's not like a sloppy type of muddy bass. It hits and it just, you know, responds real quick. So it's definitely an upgrade for sure. So I think it's a pretty good investment. I think you guys will like it a lot. So that's it as far as the install goes. I hope you learned something. If you stuck around all the way to this end where you're seeing this, you are a legend. If you liked the video, let me know by hitting the thumbs up. If you want to see more like this, make sure you subscribe. Plenty more content coming your way. Take care, guys. Bye.